If a doctor gives you advice and tells you to do something which is fard, that is good. Suppose the doctor tells you, fast for one complete month and it is Ramadan. Either you have to fast, the doctor tells you or not. So doctor tells you something which is fard, whether doctor tells you or not, you have to do it. If doctor tells you something which is a sunnah or which is mustahab, for example, doctor tells you, sit and drink water. It is good for your health. And you sit and drink water. Whether the doctor tells you or not, it's a sunnah. And the Muslim should do it as far as possible. So there's no problem at all. If doctor tells you something which is mubah, which is permissible, optional, no harm. If the doctor is an expert, as long as the doctor is qualified, follow it. Now the basic precaution comes in the last two sections. If the doctor tells you to do something which is makruh or something which is haram. If the doctor tells you to do something which is makruh, you have to first analyze why is the doctor telling you. And if the doctor is telling you something which is not recommended by the Prophet, it is not encouraged, you have to do a research and see whether the doctor is telling correctly and you follow it. Because if you do something which is makruh, you don't get negative points. If you don't do it, you get positive points. But the Quran at the same time tells you, فَاسْأَلُوا أَهْلِ الذِّكْرِ إِن كُنتُمْ لَا تَعْلَمُونَ in Surah Anbiya, chapter number 21, verse number 7, and Surah Nahl, chapter number 16, verse 43, that ask the person who is knowledgeable. So if a doctor who is a knowledgeable person, you have to confirm that he is a good qualified doctor, he is not a quack and not just telling something which is out of the way. There is no harm in doing what the doctor tells you, even though it is makruh. If doctor tells you something which is haram, then you have to weigh the pros and cons. That is it something which is life-threatening? For example, if the doctor tells you that take this alcohol, it is the only medicine that will save your life. Having alcohol is haram, but it's the only medicine that can save your life. So what you have to do, you have to do little research. That what the doctor is telling, is it really true? If the doctor is telling you something which is generally haram, anything which is haram, but because your life is in danger, automatically that becomes halal for that time. Like Allah says in the Quran in no less than 4 different places. In Surah Baqarah chapter 2 verse number 173. In Surah Ma'idah chapter 5 verse number 3. In Surah Nahl chapter 16 verse 115. And Surah Anam chapter number 6 verse number 145. That if willingly, if unwillingly you disobey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then Allah is Rahman or Rahim. After saying, Hurrimat alaykumul maytutu waddamu walahmul khinzir wama uhilla li ghayrillah bi, forbidden for you for food, dead meat, blood, the flesh of swine, and any food on which Allah's name is taken. These 4 things are prohibited. But the verse continues, if unwillingly, if you disobey Allah as a requirement, then Allah is Rahman or Rahim, He forgives you. For example, if you go in a boat and there is no food, and you have been out at the sea for several days, and the only food available is pork. Pork is haram. But that time, to save your life, having pork becomes prohibited. But the moment you come on shore, having pork becomes permitted, because you're going to save your life. But the moment you come to shore, pork again becomes prohibited. So similarly, in this situation, the doctor tells you that alcohol is the only medicine that can save you. You have to research. Is the doctor, what he's saying is right? Is there any other alternative? If there is an alternative, for example, the homeopathy medicine contains alcohol. But homeopathy medicine is not the only medicine that can cure you. So if you go out of the way and have homeopathy medicine, it is not Islamic. Because most of the homeopathy medicine contain alcohol. Suppose if you have cough, and if the cough syrup contains alcohol, you should not have that. There are other alternatives. If you are feeling cold and doctor tells you, have alcohol, have beer. Beer keeps you warm. Have honey, honey will keep you more warm. So if there is an alternative for the thing requested by the doctor, do the alternative. If there is no alternative and that's the only thing that can save your life, so if in the situation of life and death or detrimental point, it becomes permitted for you. Quran has given the permission. If the doctor is telling you something to do which is makruh, then do your research and weigh the pros and cons. Is the treatment really required? Ask me something which is against the sunnah. Sunnah will get you blessing. Based on that, if you do something which is makruh, it's not a sin at all. It is permitted.